Hey, it's Mike with USCCA, and today I'm going to go over battle belts and belt setup. A lot of people buy exterior belts for holsters, mag pouches, and all the gear that they carry on the ranges or on duty, whether you're military or police officer. I've noticed a lot of people have a setup that they emulate from something they've seen from another person, but they don't actually have specific purpose for why they carry what they carry. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what to carry for purpose, how to put it up, and then talk a little bit about like the different types of belts and what to look for when you're buying a belt for you. So here we have three belts. We have a GBRS belt, we have a Faro Concept belt, and then a Ronin belt. And for tactical purposes, these are three of the most common belts you see, the most popular, and there's a reason for it. They are probably the highest quality belts you can find. So what do you want to look for when you're buying a belt? Right? You want a belt that's going to stay sturdy, because the rigidity allows everything that you have to stay in place, and what you don't want is something that flops around, and you don't want something that's going to tear or break under stress. Taking this for example, we have the Faro Concept belts. Now we have Cobra buckles on a lot of these. I think everyone's pretty much moving to some kind of Cobra type buckle. It's easy to get on, it's easy to get off, locks into place. This has a nice design because it has a very easy to pull and tighten tab that some of the others are a little bit harder to adjust the waistband. I know the GBRS one sits in place and it's very nice because it never moves. The downside being if you ever have to change, or if you wanted to use this as a rental or loan it out to somebody. But if it's for your personal, it's a great option. This one adjusts, and that's really nice, something I like when we're running our business and we have to loan these out to students. All the belts tend to have inner Velcro liners on the inside, and then there's some kind of inner belt that people will wear that have the corresponding Velcro on the other side. The one from Faro, really nice. It has just a hook design that you cinch and lock it in, and then same thing, you pull and make it tighter or looser depending what you need. This is nice because you could wear this with your pants and go about your day-to-day if you were a police officer or you were on duty on watch, maybe in the military, and then you could run over, put your belt on if you had to get ready very quickly. So you can keep your belt set up the same. I see a lot of people who will actually just take their normal day-to-day belts and they'll slide on features, but that's just kind of a pain when you're trying to consistently have the same setup every time and you want something to stay in place. You're going to want to get yourself like a nice sturdy outside the waistband belt. I think it's important to note too, like we are not sponsored by any of these companies, any of these brands. We have no loyalty or allegiance. These are just three companies that we use personally. This is Cameron's belt. These two are my belts. I use them kind of interchangeably, but we use them because they are the best. We've tried other ones out there and they're quite good, quite similar. These are our favorites. For those of you who don't know, Cameron, another guy who works with us, former Army Ranger, he actually lent us this belt today. This was one of his belts that he used on deployment. This is a Ronin belt that he's using. So the Ronin belt, very similar in design, and these are really strong belts. They have D-rings that you could actually rappel from, although they're not rated for rappelling. So it's important to note that these features are not designed for rappelling, but you could, it's possible, I've done it before myself, use these for like more extreme circumstances. Cameron set this up in a way where he has right hand pistol, right hand holster. He's got a belt knife in the front. This is a tour knife that he has, fixed blade. He has a Haley Strategic combination of pistol and rifle mags on his. That's kind of his go-to, and they're nice and fixed and mollied into the belt so they won't slide, they won't move. That's actually a really great feature. It's always going to be the same every single time. Something that Cameron has on his, he has a dump pouch that's foldable. I think it's really important if you guys have dump pouches, understand where a dump pouch comes from. It's designed to be able to drop something in there quick, so maybe you have a half magazine or something and you're in the middle of an action and you don't want to get rid of it necessarily, but you don't have time to stuff it in a pocket. A dump pouch is something you can just throw in there. If you have a dump pouch, really important that you get one that is foldable and tucks away, because Last thing you want is just this big bag just hanging out your butt the entire time when you're moving and jumping around and, you know, climbing obstacles. So this is I actually don't know the brand of this one, but it's a nice one because it keeps it nice and small and tucked away. Cameron has the back of his belt, very common. You see people with medical kits on the back of their belt. That's a great idea to have a med kit on you. He's choosing one to have on his belt. I've found overseas and in training, if you ever have to drag a down person, having a big component like this or a knife or something else on the butt part of your belt, it's actually quite hard to drag somebody. It becomes like an anchor. So what we started doing in the SEAL teams was we started not wearing med kits on the belt so much, and we started wearing them behind the plates. There are a lot of med kits. Focus is one of them, Focus Research. They go behind the plates, and that way it would leave your backside kind of flush if you had to be pulled out of a situation. Because imagine if you're trying to pull a guy and he's down and his butt is like an anchor and it's just digging into the dirt, it would actually be really challenging. So if that's not an issue for what you're doing, or you're not planning on being in the dirt, or let's say law enforcement, probably not a situation you'd have to worry about, having a med kit right here is super handy. Also for range RSOs or people who just shoot on the range a lot, this is a great place to store your med kit. I see a tension pneumothorax pen here, a tourniquet that's very quick and accessible, single hand, left side or right side grab, and then a med kit that you can pull, once again, left side or right side grab. Very important that it's ambidextrous, because the last thing you want is your arm to get blown off and now you can't access because you're wearing too much stuff. So on this belt, he's got a Safariland holster with a True North drop leg on it. So what I noticed Cameron uses for his knife and his holster, he uses these tech locks. Tech locks are very cool because you have the ability to take on and take off very quickly, and they also hold in quite well whatever you want to secure to the belt. I actually use a tech lock on my shotgun caddy, so when I'm running shotgun, I have this tech lock. It opens up very quickly. I put my belt in and go, because I don't run a shotgun every single day. When I do, I just want to be able to put it on and take it off very quickly. So that's a neat little feature. It makes changing things on your kit much quicker. Something else you'll see on Cameron's kit is he's got another tourniquet on his drop leg, right? So Cameron has another tourniquet on his drop leg, and people will say, well, why would I want a second tourniquet? I already have one. Doesn't that seem a bit overkill? And I mean, the answer is no, it's never overkill. One, if there's a mass casualty, let's say one bullet went through and it hit 2 people, you potentially have 2 tourniquets already just for one bullet. Overseas, people would step on IEDs. The IEDs would explode, and most of the time it would be one or both limbs are completely, gone or messed up. One tourniquet is still a life lost for somebody who's a double amputee. So being able to have one or more tourniquets on you it's never a bad idea. For the day-to-day range, is it overkill? It's not really an overkill, because look how small it is. I mean, this thing just sits right here on his holster. It's a great place to work from. And also he has one here on the rear, so he can access them both left and right hand. What I really like about this setup that Cameron uses is it has everything you need, or most things you need, and it has really nothing you don't need. There's nothing on here where I'd say, yeah, you don't need this. He's got a roll of electrical tape on here. Most people take it or leave it, but for what Cameron does every day on the range, training people and operating overseas, the tape is, completely useful. So maybe, the tape, if you're just on the range every day shooting, you don't need that, but everything else, you're always gonna want a knife on you at some point. Having a nice holster, drop leg, having the drop leg with the ability to secure it to your leg, so if you're running, the thing's just not flopping around everywhere. I love this. This is a great build. The design itself from Ronin seems really nice. It's really sturdy. This is a lot of wear and tear on it, and it feels secure and it feels brand new. So big kudos to this belt. Something to note, okay? When you buy a belt, they typically come in a couple different widths or thicknesses. These belts are not the same. So this GBRS belt is a 1.75 inch thickness, and this Faro Concepts is a 2-inch thickness. It looks like the Ronin is also a 1.75. And why is that important? Well, it's really important if you don't want to waste your money, and nobody wants to do that. When you buy your mag pouches, when you buy your knives, when you buy other accessories you want to put on the belt, they typically ask if you want it to be at a specific thickness. So for instance, this Faro Concepts belt, it's 2 inches, but most of the accessories that I have, these are STAC accessories, they're 1.75, so they're not gonna fit. So I actually have to get new thickness accessories for this belt. So what's the moral of that story? Well, the moral is make sure you know what thickness you want and what thickness accessories you use, because you could waste a whole lot of money. I bought a bunch of accessories for this one GBRS belt, and now I have to buy new ones for this 2-inch belt. And is it worth it? Yeah, I think so, because you can actually try different accessories and have 2 different belt setups for different purposes, but you have to know that. Also know that the higher thickness, there's probably gonna be higher rigidity, so it will turn less and flex less, and it could be a comfort issue for you, and also could be a bulkiness issue. So just on first-hand glance, I'm noticing like one particular difference with the Faro belt as opposed to these other two is the Cobra buckle itself. They're all the same, essentially same design Cobra buckle. The Ronin belts and the GBRS belts are very similar, if not the same Cobra buckles, very thick. And the Faro one uses a thinner Cobra buckle, but the buckle on the Faro belt is actually floating above, and it's floating, it's floating above the belt, and it's actually anchored further down the belt itself. And if that doesn't make sense, I'll kind of show you. The GBRS and the Ronin belts, the webbing, the nylon webbing actually runs through the Cobra buckles themselves. So the Cobra buckle is mounted directly to the end points. How that changes the fit, I don't know. We're gonna find out. I just know I've been running this for a long time, and I've not had an issue. So I'm curious how this Faro one, see that right there, how it's anchored to kind of the higher point on the belt itself. So we'll see if that makes a difference. Maybe it makes it a more comfortable fit. Maybe it's less comfortable. Maybe it closes more securely, but we'll find that out in the testing. Another big difference I've noticed is on the inner belt. So the Ronin inner belt is actually very rigid, very rigid. There's definitely carbon fiber or some plastic inside of here. And it's also thick. It's about the same thickness. Yeah, it's about 2 inches of thickness, similar to the Faro Concepts outer belt. So that's a very, very thick inside belt. The other two don't have that. The Faro belt is actually quite thin. There's many more features on here, like a hook, a weave point so you can cinch this belt tighter. There's a smaller hook here if you need to cinch the belt tighter. So there's different ways to fit this belt, whereas the Ronin inside belt looks quite fixed. Moving over to the GBRS inner belt, they've sent a couple in the different belts I've ordered from them, but this one is very straightforward design. There's one plastic ring inside. You put the inner belt through your belt loops, and then you just cinch it nice and secure to the inner belt. Now going over to my belt setup, this is not the exact belt I ran overseas when I was in the Navy. This is the day-to-day operational belt that I use. So this is when I'm running and gunning, this is when I'm teaching, this is my range use belt. So it's going to be slightly different than Cameron's in that it doesn't have all the bells and whistles, but it has what I need, and I'll tell you why. So this is the GBRS belt that I use, and on it I have a Safariland drop leg, And the reason I use kind of a mid drop and not like a deep, deep drop is because I don't usually like to wear anything wrapped around my leg. I notice when I'm running, I feel the tension pulling and I feel it kind of cutting off circulation if I'm actually running for quite some distance. So a long full drop leg kind of gets annoying for me because it flops around or I have something pulling at my leg. I noticed with a mid drop, it slaps a little bit as you run, but as long as you keep all the screws tight and secured, you just get a little bit of flip on your hip and it doesn't bother you. The nice thing about a drop leg or a full drop leg is when you're wearing your plates and you go to draw, you don't hit your plates. It comes out before the plates hit. So if you have a bunch of pouches or things on the side, you don't have to have that big lean over to get your gun out. You can just grab it and pull. And that's super important. The last thing you want to do is have to work around your gear to get your guns out. Something to note, I did run this in a run and gun about a year ago, and I don't know, the screws weren't tightened down on this and the male and female ends completely disconnected, and I was running and my teammate ran over and handed me my pistol back because it was sitting on the side of the trail. So really important that when you are running the male and female versions of these holsters, you keep those screws tightened down, like, you know, use Loctite, keep it nice and tight. These aren't problems you'd have on a day-to-day range, but if you do like to run and gun or operate or you're a police officer, making sure that these are tight always so you don't have any issues like that. I'm running a T-Rex Arms holster. I like these because one, they're like really rigid, really hard. They don't break, they don't bend, they don't flex. They're great holsters, really well made. Those guys have a great product. I use the Safariland Quick Lock system, and what I love about the QLS system is today I'm running a Glock, and you know, I decide now I want to run my staccato. I take this in, I have the male adapter and the female adapter always sits here, and I can just put that in, and now I have a completely new kit and setup. The nice thing about the QLS, the Quick LS, is that they have smaller versions that you can attach to belts, and you can do the same thing with your other attachments. So it's kind of a competitor, if you will, to like a Quick Lock. It's just different. I actually only use it though for my pistol because I noticed to set the smaller ones on a regular belt, it's actually kind of a pain in the ass. You have to have a belt that's more specific to it, so I don't run that. However, this one is just a really great product and another way to make your belt modular and not spending hours and hours trying to undo the buckles, slide them on and off. It actually takes quite a bit of time to set even this basic system up. This GBRS belt is a 175 inch belt, so all the accessories I have are 175 or larger. I have a Winkler knife on the back. I run it on the back because I've just always run my knife on the back. It also doesn't dig in like an anchor to the point I was talking about earlier. People say, hey, well, where's your med kit? My med kit is in my plates. Or if I'm just teaching on the range, it's in my bag, like right next to me. But I always have a med kit near me. I just don't keep it on my belt all the time. Back when I was operating, I did for a brief time, and then we ran into that problem where I found it was anchoring you to the dirt, so I've just gone away, chest carrier or in the bag on the bench next to where I'm teaching. I run S-Tac mag holders. So the setup that I like to use, I have 2 mag holders for pistol, and I have a rifle mag on the belt. I like going to rifle mag on the belt simply because all the time I spend on the range, I don't want to wear plates all the time. I don't want to wear my kit all the time. So this is a great way to be able to train rifle and pistol and still have the ability to reload. But you can buy these in any combination you want. I'll see people sometimes with 6 mag holders. I'll see people with like 3 rifle holders, and it's just like this massive, accessory on their belt. This is all I'm going to say on this note. Whatever you have, just be prepared and able to explain why you have it set up that way. There's not necessarily a wrong. If I had 7 mag holders, you might say, well, that's ridiculous. Well, what if I told you that I ran competitions and I needed that much ammo? Or I was, a police officer and I'd been in 20 gunfights and I used that much ammo in each one of them. So That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Don't have it and say, well, this guy told me it was really nice, because that's a really lame answer. You have to be able to be accountable for why you carry what you carry. Okay, so the other thing I was talking about earlier, the tech lock system, it's nice because I can take features like my shotgun caddy and I could just simply add it as a new feature when I won't want to run shotgun. So I just clip it on in 10 seconds, and now I have the ability to run my shotgun. So cool little things that you can do without having to change your belt entirely. So there you have it. Hopefully this helps you make a more informed decision on your belts when you go to buy it. Just remember, the most important thing above all else is the purpose. Know what you're buying and why you're buying it. If you're going to be on the range specifically, make sure that you design your kit to be for the range, not just for looks or because it looked cool or because your friend told you to buy it. If you're going to be operating or you're going to be on duty, make sure that your kit is designed for fighting, operating, doing what you're doing. Whatever it is, make sure you're doing it with purpose and with intention. If you like what you saw, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button as well. We would love to hear in the comments section what you are using at home. Do you have a favorite of these 3 belts? I know a lot of you watching this probably use one of these 3, and also let us know if there's something else that you run. We would love to hear the things that you keep on your kit. But please, please let us know what the purpose is. So if you're a police officer, let us know what you carry and then why you carry that. As well, if you're like a competition shooter or you run different packages, let us know why you run what you run. Hey, before you go, make sure you check out the free giveaway that USCCA has going on right now. The link is below in the description, where you can get all the details on how you can enter.